for joining this What's Cooking series, from monitoring regional food security to forecasting global crop production, innovative use cases for merging Earth observation with models and machine learning. This is in this series, we invite innovators, thought leaders, and practitioners and World Bank investment team leaders who are transforming agriculture and food systems through innovation, data, and digital technologies. We have already conducted over 80 webinars over the last 3-4 years. As previous sessions from this webinar are available on our website, and participants may find the link in chat. The proceedings from today's webinar is also going to be circulated to all the people who have registered and who are joining. We know that accurate and timely information on crop growing conditions and quantitative crop yield forecasts are of crucial importance for not only the decision makers, but also designing better precision agriculture advisories for smallholders. World Bank is committed towards investing in developing data platforms and systems at the ground level and from space, but also strengthen the institutional capacity of partner countries to prepare and deal with this investment in data and digital technologies. Earlier this year, we had a very good response to a learning session where we took a closer look at 2 national level crop forecasting programs, Ethiopia and Morocco. Good attendance. We had more than 400 people there. So we realized that this is something which people want to learn more about. So building on that, we are now doing a second in the series where we have gathered speakers from 3 leading international crop monitoring and forecasting programs today. We learn about these methodologies today, and they are from different geographies, and I hopefully this will generate a good question. I would encourage you, as we do for virtual webinars, to start asking questions as soon you have them. And so while the speaker is speaking, you can ask, and when the first speaker finishes, you can ask, so that we can start harvesting questions, key questions. And we have a team who's monitoring the chat, and they will pick up the most kind of cross-cutting questions. And then we will run through one more discussion with the panel. Please stay on mute and request all the speakers to stay on time, because we have seen that if we don't stay on time, people start dropping and we are left with no one at the end of it. So I don't want that situation there. So we will monitor your engagement very clearly and give you a warning around when you are left with 3 minutes there. So we have 3 presentations there. So I have great pleasure in inviting Moritz van den Berg, who is a project officer at the Monitoring Agriculture Resource Unit in the Joint Research Center of the European Commission. Over to you, Moritz.
Thank you very much for your introduction, Parmesh, and also for inviting me for this event. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. I promised that I would send you the slides, but I realized too late that the presentation was too big, so I will hopefully manage to share it from my own screen. And you should see it now.
Yes, we can see you. Morris, please go ahead.
Okay. And now now I see you here. Let's just move it to my other screen so that I look into the camera. Yes, so in today's presentation, I will tell something about the JRC Mars Bulletin. And let's move to the next slide, which is managed and published by the Joint Research Center of the European Commission. And the Joint Research Center is one Directorate General of the European Commission. So my boss ahead is Ursula von der Leyen. But we are not based in Brussels. We are actually based in several places around the EU. And our group is in Ispra in northern Italy. And I think, well, to start with, maybe it's doesn't look like the most logical start. But I think it is good to be clear that to have a bit of the context, the JRC Mars Bulletin is not like a product by itself or an objective by itself, but it is produced within the context of the Agri-Forecast project, or it is actually a key output of the Agri-Forecast project. And the objectives of this project are to provide independent, timely, and accurate information on the growing conditions of crops, and also to provide quantitative crop yield forecasts for the EU and its neighborhood. It's also to provide ad hoc analysis of extreme weather events and their impacts on agriculture. Most of these ad hoc analyses are made on request by DG Agri, which is our main customer, let's say. And it is also to provide research and development in agricultural monitoring and data analysis and modeling to improve the system and to research novel methodologies at the state of art. So within our group, we are a big part of our time we are spending on more the operational aspects of the of this project, to produce the bulletin, to do our forecast, to write our text, and another substantial part is more on the research and development to make sure to keep the system running, and also to make sure that we are at the state of the art. And then in addition to that, we also provide these ad hoc analysis on request, usually within a few days. So just about the policy context, I think that is also quite important, that we are quite firmly enshrined within the EU policy, within an EU policy framework, and in particular of the Common Agricultural Policy. There is a special article 25 of Regulation EU 2021-2116, which is on monitoring agricultural resource. So there is actually a regulation at EU level that stipulates that we have to do this work. It doesn't say exactly how we have to do this, but it enters into quite some detail. Also, so this regulation dates from 2021, but there have been previous regulations since 1992, actually. So we are doing this work for more than 30 years now. More recently, of course, we have the Farm to Fork strategy, which is a very important new development within the EU, part of the European Green Deal. Not just to look at direct aspects of the Green Deal, but also what we call a contingency plan for ensuring food supply and food security in times of crisis. So there are some concerns that the Green Deal has quite a strong focus on environmental aspects, the sustainability aspects of agriculture. And there are goals related to the decrease of nutrient losses, for example, as well as, sorry, just 1 second. Ben in een presentatie. Sorry for that. And also regarding the use of pesticides, and that could have, well, it probably will have some negative impacts on productivity, depending on how the farmers react to that, how they will be able to cope to that. So it is also important to monitor any negative impacts on food security, on food production, and eventually also on food security of these environmental measures. And we believe that if we cope well with them, we will be able to, because in the long run, it's a sustainability policy. Regarding the, sorry, once again. Sorry, once again. So the main user of this work is the European Commission, and then in particular DG Agri, which is the Director General for Agriculture and Rural Development. And they use it for several purposes. More directly, the EU crop balance sheets, which are prepared to indicate and predict the needs for additional imports, exports, etc. at EU level, but also to look at more regional problems that may require support from the European Commission at regional level for farmers that are affected, for example, by extreme drought or extreme rainfall, as we have seen in the past months, actually, in several places in Europe. But there's also a very important uptake by public users. Every few years, let's say every 4 or 5 years, we conduct a user survey in which we ask the users, well, where they come from, but also how they use the bulletin, what they use it for, how important it is for them. And we find that most of the users are actually from the private sector, and then in particular from finance, trade, agricultural producers organization. In the case of finance, it could be in terms of lending, insurance, several types of financial users. And also from processors. For example, chocolate industry is interested in to know what is happening with the sugar beet, and chips factories, they are interested to know what is happening with the potatoes. So quite a diverse group of users. Also journalists, of course, as you see here, that the uptake also by journalists is quite good. And then there is also a spin-off in terms of the use of our products or the data that we use for our products for other purposes, in particular research purposes. But also several examples are given on this slide. I won't go into the details. Perhaps most interesting for several of you, the last bullet point on the top right is the data distribution, which is many of the data that we use and produce, they can be downloaded freely from our website. On the last slide, I will show you the website. In terms of contents of the bulletin, it always starts with an agrometeorological overview. And the first part of that agrometeorological overview is the areas of concern, which is more or less a synthesis of the findings in easily digested language, as much as we can. Probably we can improve there somewhat. And that also has maps, simplified maps that indicate where extreme events happened and what the impacts of those extreme events were, if any, on different types of crops. And those by themselves are already a very popular, let's say, product. During the winter time, we also conduct a frost damage analysis and then just like a straightforward weather review and weather forecast. Depending on the month, we have a dedicated chapter on sowing and harvested conditions, harvesting conditions, section on remote sensing analysis for arable land, on pastoral grassland conditions, also remote sensing based. Very importantly, the country analysis. So for each country or small group of countries, we write a text, we write a narrative that links the results of all our analysis to what is happening in a specific country or group of countries, and also that makes it understandable why we upgrade or downgrade or maintain our yield expectations at a certain level. And then, of course, the crop yield forecast in tabulated format at national level and also at EU level. And then we have a series of what we call the Atlas maps, which gives maps, EU-wide maps or European-wide maps on weather data and also on crop simulation results. don't have many slides about the approach. I expect that the other speakers will go into much more detail regarding their approach. So I decided to keep it a bit light. At the end, if there are any questions, I can go into a bit more detail. On the basis of our system is the weather monitoring, and that depends on about 5,000 weather stations on the ground. So primarily, we also use satellite-based data or weather model data, but mainly the station data, and those are interpolated to a grid of 25 or 25 kilometers with daily data, and then they are input used directly for the construction of these areas of concerns map, and they also are used as input into a crop growth simulation model, which the main model that we use is the WOFOST model, which was developed by Wageningen University and Research. We have a separate rice model, which is called WARM, but for all the other crops at the moment, we use WOFOST. Oh, sorry, it was not my intention that it should go up already. And then we also do remote sensing analysis using several sensors. At the moment, the main one that we use is MODIS, and the results are aggregated at 1 kilometer level and 10-day time steps. And the current results, and that's also for the remote sensing data, we look mainly at the anomalies for each grid cell compared with last 10 years, and for the weather data compared with last 30 years. All that information goes then into a statistical system on the basis of which we produce a number of forecasts. So you could call it an ensemble of forecasts. And that then results from that ensemble, we select one or we select an average. That leads then to our actual forecast in terms of tons per hectare per crop. In that process, the analyst is key. It is not an automated process in which we press a button and we get a result in terms of a forecast. The analyst is very important to determine what the context is, how we should interpret the data, how we should look also at the results of the statistical analysis. And we think that has a lot of added value to do that. On the other hand, it is, of course, very time consuming. And now the next slide doesn't want to come. Good. Every year we conduct also a quality assessment of our forecasts. Since 2014, in the last few years, I think 3 or 4 years, they are also made publicly available. We look at the year-to-year performance of our forecast. How good were our forecasts? Also at the long run, are we improving or are we not improving? And we do that at EU 27 level and also at country level. In addition, we don't just look at the discrepancies. Well, first, it is also good to understand that the reference for how good or how bad we are, that is the Eurostat. So we depend a lot on the quality of Eurostat. If the official statistics are not good, our forecast, of course, can also not be good because we use that as the reference. We also look at the in-season performance. For example, very early, we start our forecast in March, which is the beginning of the season in early spring. And for the winter crops, we go until August, September, when they are harvested. And for the summer crops, we go until October. But during that period, of course, in March, you cannot expect a hugely accurate forecast because there is still a lot of weather that will influence the crops between March and the harvesting. But how good are our forecasts? How well are they improving along the season? And that is important. Also to see how is our system behaving during extremes. I think my time is running out. Yes, that is, well, here are 2 examples for France and and Romania. And if you had looked well, then you see that in general it's not so bad. We try to be within a 5%. I would actually like to be within a 3 or 4% range at EU level. At country level, we do not always meet that. And you also see that there are some noteworthy discrepancies between what we forecast and what we actually found, what was actually harvested. And those discrepancies, they give a lot of food for thought and evaluation, and also can give uh, ideas to improve our system. Where does it go wrong? What can we improve? How can we how do we deal with it? Some of the new developments that we are entering in. So we are currently moving into a higher system resolution. I mentioned 25 by 25 kilometers. In the course of next year, that will become 10 by 10 kilometers. We're adding protein crops. At the moment, we're doing 15 crops, which are all the main staple crops of the EU. Also, grassland productivity, we want to assess quantitatively. At the moment, we are only doing it qualitatively. Olive yields and production forecasts are in the pipeline, still in a very early stage. Success is not yet guaranteed, but we want to do that, and we were asked to do that. An early warning system for fruit trees. So we are now entering into several types of permanent crops, grasslands, fruit trees, and olives. Regional forecasting, where we do have to go into automated forecast, probably using artificial intelligence, which at the moment we are only doing as a research objective, not yet in an operational mode. We also want to make improved use of seasonal weather forecasts, so to look what the weather will be in the coming 3 or 4 months. At the moment, we are only using 10 days. We know that the seasonal weather forecast for Europe don't have a very good skill, but it is improving, and we want to make use of that. And also our way of publication, we also want to improve. And finally, which is more into the research, we think that many of the lessons that we are learning from this work, they are also very relevant for climate impact research or climate adaptation research. I don't want to go into detail now, but maybe during the question and answer sessions, I can expand on that. And then here's some key ingredients for success. And this is my last slide, which I believe. And I think you can read it when you have, because I'm getting well over time. And then also on the last slide, the very last slide, some links to further information and dashboards that are relevant for our system, including the anomaly hotspots of agriculture, which is a global system, which is also developed by our unit, but it is more qualitative. And that's what I wanted to say for now. I hope I didn't go too much over my time. I know how
Thanks a lot, Moritz,
irritating that
for
can be.
staying on time. Very rich presentation. Conveys the breadth and depth of the work which is happening at your team. And I think we will have questions, obviously, on the replicability of this approach, because we would try to have similar capabilities and capacities in other regions. And how would you build a technical assistance program to allow other regions to do that? Because World Bank is interested in, can we have a similar process in Africa? And there are lots of people you can see today who have joined also from Africa, who are already doing crop forecasting and monitoring. It's a good network there. But I think we need institutionalize. We need these kinds of forecaster bulletins to be issued in Africa, and so that a lot of people can use them. So we will come back to you. There will be more questions to you in the chat. Please start looking at the chat, and you can answer some questions in the chat, but we'll come to you with the second round. Many thanks for really sharing your rich experience with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I will stop sharing now.
Yeah. So I have great pleasure in now inviting Ritvik Sahajpal, who is the Sustainable and Regenerative Agriculture Initiative from the Sustainable and Regeneration Agriculture Initiative at NASA Harvest, and is professor at the Department of Geographical Sciences at University of Maryland, USA. Ritvik was not that well, but he is still, participating in the program today. So Ritvik, deeply appreciate you doing this today. Thank you.
Much, Parmesh, and I will be sharing a recording of my presentation. So I'll just start that now. And please let me know if you start hearing it once it starts. Good morning. I'm Ritvik Sahajpal, Associate Research Professor and Crop Condition Co-Lead at NASA Harvest. Today, I'll be talking about crop condition assessment and yield forecasting at NASA Harvest. So, as a member of NASA Harvest, we were established in 2017 and are based at the University of Maryland. Our objective is to enable and advance awareness, use, and adoption of satellite Earth observations by public and private organizations to benefit food security and agriculture. We consist of a diverse consortium of more than 50 members from public, private, NGO, intergovernmental, and humanitarian sectors. Today, I'll be talking about 3 different projects. First, I'll present the agrometeorological dashboard that combines multiple Earth observation indicators for easy assessment of crop conditions. I'll cover 2 case studies. First, I'll cover primary maize season in Mashonaland, eastern Zimbabwe, and then the primary maize season in central Zambia. Next, I'll present a machine learning model called GeoCif that we have developed for crop yield forecasting, and I'll present 3 case studies. First, primary maize season in Malawi, second, the spring wheat in Kazakhstan, and finally a case study on maize, soybean, and wheat at field scale in Argentina. And finally, I'll present some new and preliminary work on developing climate extreme indices for estimating climate impact on agricultural productivity. While preparing this presentation, I thought of asking ChatGPT to draw an image showing what data-driven agriculture looks like. Here is what it came up with. Then I thought, why stop there? Let's make it more data-driven. And finally asked it to make it even more data-driven and modern. Now that looks quite dystopian. I promise you this talk is less scary. I'll talk about our approach at NASA Harvest towards data-driven agriculture, what principles we follow to avoid such terrifying outcomes, and examples from a couple of our projects for USAID, FAO, AGRA, and COMESA illustrating our results. Our first product is the agrometeorological EO-based indicators, or AGMIT. This is an analysis-ready suite of crop condition indicators that includes NDVI, precipitation, temperature, evaporative stress index, and soil moisture. These are processed over the cropping calendar and crop mask for the specific region of interest, with the last 7 years of data ready to be visited from 2016 to 2023. These are updated weekly and are available at cropmonitor.org/tools/agmit. Let's break this graphic down. Within each plot, there are several main components. As an example that you see here, the light gray area shows the span of the most recent 10-year minimum and maximum values across the season to provide a better understanding of the particular data product's variability over time. The black line shows the most recent 5-year mean values across the season in order to demonstrate what average conditions usually look like. The purple lines show the values across the previous season, and the blue line shows the value for the current season in near real time as it progresses. The plot is customized to span the average growing season of the crop being monitored, beginning around sowing and finishing around end of harvest. The average start of each of the key crop development periods, which is sowing, grain up, senescence, and harvest, is marked by a vertical line, as you can see in this graphic. AGMIT graphics are time series versions of mapped products. They enable better visualization of temporal trends. In this example, both the agromet graphics and the maps tell the same story. As you can see, the NDVI time series for Free State in South Africa in 2021 and the corresponding NDVI anomaly maps. In January, NDVI was above the 5-year average, but below in April, as you can see both in the maps as well as the time series graphic. Let's take a look at our first case study. This is in Mashonaland East, which is the main maize-producing region in Zimbabwe. The 2020 season had a poor start to the rains and below average rainfall throughout. This resulted in a maize harvest of about 900,000 tons, almost half the annual requirements. In contrast, the 2021 season had consistent rainfall throughout and resulted in a harvest of 2.7 million tons, almost 3 times larger than the 2020 output. Looking at the 2021 season, NDVI was tracking above the 5-year average from mid-December and at the 10-year max. Cumulative rainfall was above the 5-year average from mid-December, and the recent 5-year comparison shows NDVI of 2021 near the 2016 levels. There was well-distributed precipitation throughout the season, and in terms of yield, the final outcome was a bumper harvest. Let's take a look at our second case study for central Zambia. In this, the 2020 maize season started with normal rainfall onset in November and slightly below average cumulative precipitation, while the cumulative rains in NDVI was slightly below average. However, above average harvest resulted in about 3.4 megatons of maize at the national level. In 2021, the season started with a normal onset in November and above average rains. This continued throughout much of the season, resulting in 3.6 megatons of maize production at the national level, with a slightly higher year over year for 2021. Taking a closer look, NDVI is tracking below the 5-year average. Cumulative rainfall is also below the 5-year average from mid-December and remains below average throughout. Evaporative stress index, which is a really good indicator of crop water stress, and soil moisture show normal to above average conditions throughout much of the season, and the soil moisture is above average. In terms of the final yield outcome, it's favorable. Looking at the 2021 season, NDVI is above the 2020 level and close to the 5-year average. Cumulative precipitation is also above average throughout the season, and soil moisture is above the 5-year average and near the 10-year max. Daily precipitation shows precipitation well distributed throughout key points in the season. The final yield outcome is favorable. We have used the agromet graphics extensively in the preparation of our monthly global crop monitor reports, and they've also been used by other organizations like FAO-JUICE in their crop security reports for Angola and Mozambique. Please do take a look at these at cropmonitor.org/tools/agromet. Next, we'll talk about using machine learning for crop yield forecasting. In this section, I'll talk about the Global Earth Observation for Crop Inventory Forecasting, or the GeoCIF system. It is a machine learning-based model that produces alerts to assess crop yields globally by applying machine learning algorithms on genotype, environment, and management data where available. The model has been applied at field, national, and continental scales. And in this presentation, I'll be showing results using GeoCIF in our work with FAO, USAID, AGRA, and COMESA. We applied the GeoCIF yield forecast model for use at both Admin 1 and Admin 2 level in Malawi to produce monthly in-season yield forecast estimates for maize to the Ministry of Agriculture to inform their seasonal monitoring and production estimates. We provided these in-season estimates for Malawi at Admin level 1 during 2022 cropping season and at Admin level 2 during the 2023 cropping season. These yield forecast estimates generally reflected conditions on the ground, including the yield damage caused in southern Malawi in 2023 from Cyclone Freddy. The model was able to provide these insights on final yields more than 3 to 4 months in advance of harvest. Next is a project that we did with FAO and USAID, looking at producing monthly in-season spring wheat yield forecast estimates using the GeoSIF model for the Ministry of Agriculture in Kazakhstan during the 2022 and 2023 cropping seasons. As an example, the national yield estimates for 2023 were below average and correspond with the remote sensing-based AgMet indicators. The GeoSIF estimate was within 1% of the final season yield and indicated these lower yields a month in advance of the USDA estimate. The main producing oblasts, as you can see in the graphics on the right in this slide, were among the most affected by poor precipitation and high temperatures. We've also applied GeoSIF to many other countries. And what we found is that it can forecast crop yields about 2 to 3 months before harvest at regional scales for key commodity crops in the major global producers. In general, in our backtesting, we have found that GeoSIF has a prediction error between 1.5 to 5% for the key commodity crop producers, with the best performance being seen in rice, followed by maize, soybean, spring, and winter wheat. And here you can see both the countries in which we have tested the model. So it includes places in the global south, like Kenya, Tanzania, Mali, Malawi, Zambia, but also the big commodity crop producers, including Ukraine, US, China, India, Canada, and so on. Now, a drawback with machine learning models is that they typically need large amount of data to perform well. Since several of our countries of interest are data deficient in terms of historical yield data, we use a novel machine learning approach that can model locally, but still learn from the global data that is available. What this means is that for, let's say, Kenya, combining maize data from India with the maize data from Kenya results in a 15.1% reduction in the root mean square error or the model error compared to using only data from Kenya. Not only this, but model performance in extreme event years can be improved by combining data from other countries. In this example, we saw a 9.2% reduction in RMSE for maize in Kenya for the drought year of 2008 when we combined data from India. We have also applied GeoSIF at field scale. In a public-private partnership with a company in Argentina, we found that GeoSIF reduced RMSE by 215 kilograms per hectare and improved R-square by 0.24 over the next best performing model for forecasting soybean yields. This held true over a variety of satellite data sources, including optical, Sentinel-2 and Landsat-8, and radar, Sentinel-1. We tested this approach and found the same to be true over 6,000 fields for maize, wheat, and soybean over 4 years of data. Now, the GeoSIF model has now been used operationally in projects from organizations like USAID, FAO, AGRA, and COMESA. An example is its use in the Regional Food Balance Sheet, which is an initiative which the Alliance for Green Revolution in Africa, or AGRA, and COMESA are leading. And you can see an example of the reports we have produced for that project on the left. The initiative that they're leading, the Regional Food Balance Sheet, RFBS, uses data from a variety of public and private sources to develop near real-time and forward-looking food balance estimates. Our role in that project is to provide accurate area and yield estimates to enable them to produce production estimates for those countries. My final topic today is climate extreme indicators. We use a suite of 49 climate extreme indicators as defined by the expert team on climate change detection and indices. These indices are widely accepted by the global community, including WMO and IPCC, as relevant to monitoring climate change impacts and extreme event impacts. Climate extreme indices can be used to determine the impact of climate conditions on agricultural productivity. This is how they're produced. First, we download global climate and NDVI data sets starting from the year 2000. Then we extract crop-specific time series of climate and NDVI for each administrative level 1 region. We compute these indices, the 49 climate indices and 4 additional one for NDVI. And then we store them and their trends in a database. What you can see on the right is a table of all the 49 climate indices. Some key ones include TG10P. This is the percentage of days when minimum temperature is lesser than the 10th percentile. CDD, which is the maximum consecutive dry days when precipitation is less than 1 millimeter. And CW, these are the days where the daily temperature is less than the 25th percentile of daily mean temperature, and the precipitation is greater than the 75th percentile of daily precipitation sum. You can see that these indices are divided into several categories, including cold, compound, drought, heat, rain, snow, and temperature. Overall, we have computed more than 10 million CEIs, covering more than 100 countries, 1,652 regions, 7 crops, including rice, teff, maize, sorghum, soybean, spring and winter wheat. These are available for 3 crop growth stages, from planting to green up to senescence, and senescence to harvest. They cover more than 2 decades worth of data and cover both the primary and the secondary crop growing season. This is what the climate extreme indicators look like. The dashboard on the left is quite busy and it shows all the indicators, but we have zoomed into a section of CEIs related to temperature on the top right. These CEIs are very well correlated with crop yields, as can be seen in the plot on the bottom right, which is showing for maize in Rwanda, the indices with the highest correlation with end of season crop yield. And as you can see, that the index with the highest correlation has an R-square value of greater than 0.8. This is initial and preliminary work, but we are hoping that these climate extreme indicators can not only inform the AgMet graphics, but can further also be used as input into machine learning models for effective crop yield forecasting. To summarize, NASA Harvest has produced 3 tools looking at crop conditions based on synoptic visualization, those are the AgMet graphics, machine learning modeling, that's the GeoSIF model, and climate impact assessments, those are the climate extreme indicators or CEIs. These tools are being used in a variety of projects from USAID, FAO, AGMA, and COMESA. My wish is that we would like to collaborate with you to extend our work from the major commodity crop producers to more countries and more crops in the global south. And finally, to end, I asked ChatGPT to picture a more harmonious and more modern data-driven agriculture setting. And this is what it came up with. I hope that this scenic vista can inspire us to collaborate even more closely together. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, really, Ritvik, for doing a very good presentation. It compasses all the work which has been done in so many countries where we work. And I think the point about data deficiency not becoming impediment and using machine learning proactively, global data to train models as we go forward is very, very important. If we continue to just rely on legacy systems, we will not go to analytics and use cases there. So I think there is a way forward there, and we look forward. There are a lot of good questions for you. And we also look forward, because we're going to launch an agri-food data lab in the World Bank the next 2 months, and we would like your program to be a key collaborator to that program that allows you a platform to then work with many countries which are investing in data platforms in a more wholesale way as opposed to one by one. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. And please look at the questions in the chat, Ritvik, answer them, and then we'll bring you into a second round. Hopefully you'll be able to participate in that and give some reflection on the questions which people are raising. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My great pleasure to now get our next presenter. And I think we have had some interactions in the past. They have collaborated with us on various things. So my great pleasure to bring in now Miao Zhang from CropWatch. and innovative cooperation program. And he is currently working as associate professor at Aerospace Information Research Institute at Chinese Academy of Sciences. Over to you.
Thank you, Pamesh. Thank you for your introduction. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Um, First, I would like to thank you inviting us to join this webinar. And maybe I misunderstanding the purpose of the webinar. I prepare my slides focusing on one of our projects and especially focusing on the capacity building in some African countries. So we call it corporate innovative cooperation program, which are jointly supported by Chinese Academy of Sciences, ANSO, and United Nations UNCTAD. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead with the slides, and I hope I can also touch some methodology point and also shown what what corporate can offer for developing countries. So everybody know that food security is still a challenging issue, especially under the pressure of extreme events, disasters, and recent years affected by COVID-19, and that the locusts further threaten the food security issues. And the paucity of adequate capacity in obtaining and accessing food information posed that the danger for decision makers, because sometimes they have to make decision based on the delayed information or not verified information. And I think that is one of the reasons that in the very beginning, almost more than 20 years ago, we start corporate program. We try to use satellite images to conduct objective monitoring of crops, providing up-to-date, near real-time information for our policymaker in the food import export aspects. And now many developing countries, I think they are also in strong demand of such agriculture platforms. To let you know, I want to further explain that corporate cloud is a satellite-based platform, and currently we are doing crop monitoring for 173 countries. Most of the countries in the world are included, and we provide agroclimatic indicators, agronomic indicators, area yield and production at global scales, national scales. And for China, we also go to local scales and focusing on four major crops: maize, rice, wheat, and soybean. And our platform consists mainly of four components, and each component has different function. The first one is a component that converts satellite data into crop information, and then all those information is available on an online interface like this, providing all the relevant information for all countries and subnational levels. Based on all those information, we have international teams that jointly work together and write global agriculture monitoring report in both Chinese and English languages. And all those reports are freely accessed by everybody in the world on our website, the fourth component, corporate bulletin. And you can access to our platform through this URL, cloud.corporate.com.cn. And every year we regularly release agriculture analysis bulletin to public at quarterly frequency, and also at the end of the year we also doing synthetic analysis and release an annually summary report to provide overall crop production situation, also assess the status of food security at global scales and different regions. Also, this quarterly and annual report are all fully available. So now the second part, I want to talk about our corporate ICP project, and the project was initiated by our president Bai of Chinese Academy of Sciences, actually during the meeting when he joined the 23rd UNCSD annual session. He made a presentation and also made a commitment that Chinese Academy of Sciences will provide continued support, especially for developing countries to access crop monitoring tools in support of corporate team. And since then, we've been working closely under both support of ANSO and UNCTAD. And in July 2020, they have been signed an MOU between the two agencies, try to enhance science and technology development to build capacity within the developing countries. And for the project itself, the corporate ICP program is try to facilitate and stimulate crop monitoring at developing countries for the advancement of the, especially focusing on the SDG tools, through the joint research and also capacity buildings. We have selected 5 pilot countries, including Thailand, Nigeria, and some others, to do respective national and subnational crop monitoring on their own in support of the corporate platform. And also with the support of the system, the tools, and also the information provided by the tools, the project also try to promote the resilient agriculture practices in those countries. As I already mentioned, so the main action of the project is the joint research with the developing countries. So we conduct a joint field survey, collect some ground truth data in order to calibrate the model for the specific local agricultural practices. And also we have conducting a series of capacity building workshops in developing countries under different international organizations, coordination. And finally, we hope through those joint research and capacity building, the project could provide some support for, especially for the food security decision making and early warning in developing countries. And then I want to show you some activities the project has been conducted. So actually in March 2021, the project program was launched, and the kickoff meeting, because of the COVID-19, the kickoff meeting was held online, and actually several countries joined the kickoff meeting, including 25 participants from 14 countries, mostly in Africa and Asia, where those countries are really suffering from food security issues. And after that, we've been conducting several capacity building for different countries, either regional or for specific country. For instance, in March to May, we have been conducted 3 months training every week, just 2 or 3 hours, so that people can find some time to join the training. So those courses include both methodologies, theoretical of the remote sensing application in agriculture, and also application of the corporate platform for the monitoring. And many countries are involved. We also invite some international experts to join the training courses, so that more comprehensive courses could be provided to the trainees. And because of the need of the ground truth samples to conduct the model calibration in different countries. So we also provide the technical support for those country participants and provide some support for them while they conduct field survey. We provide the support virtually. And through the capacity building, many countries, including Mauritius, Nigeria, Algeria, Syria, Thailand, those countries, they managed to collect the data using the tools we provided. And some other examples, like we have been conducting several meetings with Nigerian colleagues. Specifically, they have been working closely with us and sign MOU to frameworks the cooperation to strengthen the capacity building. And they are really doing this seriously. They have been organized 2 stakeholder meetings involving almost 10 or 11 agencies to listen to their demands so that their team and our team, we can work together, really work out the work plan so that almost all the demands could be addressed through the discussion and preparation of the implementation plan. And similarly, we have been conducting national training workshops in Zimbabwe, and also in October this year in Nigeria, another workshops was conducted there. We also visit some fields, collect ground samples over different farms. And I also want to thank the helps from Nigerian side to coordinate these training workshops. And later on, Rakia Babamaji from NASA Nigeria, he will also talk about some activities from a user point of view. And also we conducted regional workshops at Mauritius in August this year. And 11 countries, there are 27 trainees joined the training workshops. And we also visit some field and teach them how to use the smartphones to collect the ground truth samples so that those data could be used on their own in our system to conduct their own high resolution monitoring. So talking about high resolution, I will also want to update you some baseline data behind the corporate system. So we have 30-meter cropland mask and 100-meter global irrigation and rainfed mask and cropping intensity map at 30-meter resolution. So all those data sets not only used in our system, but also we make it openly available by everybody in the world. So there are some DOI in the slide. Later on, you can get the shared slides. You can also get access to those data sets in your local research. And this slide shows you 2 smartphone apps that we have been developed, especially in support of the ground truth data collection. One is GVG, so mostly focusing on the geotech photo collection to collect the crop type information. The other one is the field watch that which can be used to collect some photos of the crops, the heads, and the year of the crops, so that using artificial intelligence, it can estimate the number of kernels, number of the seeds, and with some ground measurements, we can also estimate the yields. And similar to NASA Harvest, we also provide dashboard information for users, including all the nations and subnational level, provincial or states level. And we provide updated information for both weather information and agronomic crop condition and land use, agricultural land use intensity, those indicators, which are updated every 10 to 16 days, and some indicators may be seasonal or annually updated. So you can simply get comprehensive overview of the crop condition at different units by showing all those relevant information indicators at one page. So this slide shows you that in our system, we've been using a lot of data to make the operational of crop monitoring possible. So every year we use about 40 terabyte data and also almost 1 million ground truth samples to support this monitoring. At global scales, we mostly use 1 kilometer resolution data, and we just need 1 day to finish the data processing. While in China, which we use more higher resolution, like 10 to 30 meter resolution, and which usually took 5 days to finish the monitoring. And some data are already linked with international agencies like FAO hand-in-hand system that have been accessing to our data indicators through APIs. And similarly, all the countries like you can also access to those data sets through APIs. And recently, we also make the upgrade the system more flexible, so that you can call the function and you upload some samples. So you can simply use our system doing crop type mapping or even yield mapping at your defined zones. Like this video shows you in Vietnam, Mekong Delta, where you upload some samples, you can doing very high resolution rice mapping over there. So this gives the user some flexibility that you use your own data, you conduct your own monitoring over your own specific regions. And this map shown that using this kind of methodology and mechanisms, we've been working in China providing high resolution crop type information in Northeast China, so which are updated every year. And recently we worked closely with South and Southeast country, and I think high resolution crop, especially paddy rice field at 10-meter resolution, will be regularly released also on our website. So these are some information and activities we have been done recently. I also want to show you that to implement our system in your country, you just need several steps. So you need to do some requirement analysis. You have to work together with us to prepare the work plans. And of course, we need some baseline data from your side. And under the upon on this, and then we have to conduct some trainings to teach you how to use the system to conduct at different level uh, of crop monitoring. Of course, we also have to consider stakeholder their demands from different stakeholders. And finally, we can do customization, and also we could also incorporate your developed models in the system to make it ready for use. What we can guarantee is that corporate cloud will be always available, accessible, and functional, flexible according to the developing country's demand. And in this way, we think it could be promote ownership, and there's no investment needed for especially infrastructure, which are sometimes more very expensive if you work at high resolution. So there are also some coming opportunities. I just stay on this page and I don't want to mention this. So this is the last slide. So hopefully in 2024, we will have more training workshops on either online or on site. So we welcome you to join our future activities. Thank you.
Much appreciated, Meow, covering a range of things. And you also explained the institutional model which you are using in the Chinese Academy of Sciences and institutions and the crop watch to really, in a way, you are trying to develop a DIY model, do it yourself kind of model
Yeah.
using cloud and other functionalities, which is a very different way of looking at it. Is that at a point of time you upgrade the skills that people can do it themselves, which is a very good model. I find that is a very interesting part of your model. And we look forward to working with you very closely as we are working on this global Earth observation project, in which we could do some events together for the countries which are asking for this expertise. So thanks a lot, Meow, and staying for time. And it will be good now to bring in, in a logical sequence, we should bring now uh, Rokia Babamaji. Dr. Rokia Babamaji is the Deputy Director of Nigerian National Space Research and Development Agency and coordinator of Crop Watch Nigeria. Rakia, you have 5 minutes now because you are a discussant. It's not a presentation. Your reflection on what has been the Crop Watch experience and what's happening in Nigeria. Over to you.
Okay. Hello, are you hearing me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you very much, the host and the moderator. And also thank you, everybody. Please pardon me because I'm in a hall where we are having another program. So you may hear a kind of interaction. I want to use the opportunity to say that we have benefited a lot from Crop Watch. Nigeria is a country that has up to 200 million population. Definitely sure, it is going to be very important for us to have information about different type of crop or agricultural activities in order for us to achieve food security. So as one of the beneficiary of Crop Watch program, we try to convert the data into a situation where we can use it more. So I can say that since 2021, when we were invited by United Nations Trade and Conference on Trade and Development, that is UNCTAD, to join the Crop Watch training during COVID time, we joined online. And immediately my boss, Dr. Halilu Ahmed Shaba from Nigerian Space Agency saw it, say, okay, we need this in Nigeria. And we signed MOU, and behold me, we have several trainings to my colleagues and other colleagues from stakeholders, from Ministry of Agriculture, from Water Resources, from National Meteorological Service Agency, from even industrial bank like National Agricultural Insurance Corporations, and so on. So they gave us insight to the capacity for us to be able to collect data using the app that was developed by the Crop Watch team, which is GVG. And they came up to Nigeria also to lead us into the farmland areas where we collect data differently for 2 days, working with them hand in hand, and then plot it at the same time. So this has helped us a lot. Now we are in a stage where we are talking with the Ministry of Agriculture so that we can develop this product further for them. And for the bulletin, quarterly, when we get the bulletin, we try to localize it by knowing what is happening meteorologically and also agricultural-wise, so that it can reflect what is happening in Nigeria, not just from global perspective. Okay. Also, the most important one is that as a Nigerian, most of the data we used to have is national level or global level. But we provided Crop Watch a boundary shapefile of Nigeria that included 772, over 700 local government area for them to put it in the model so that we can have information down to that local level. And that I can proudly say is working now. If you go to the website, to the dashboard, you could get national data, state data, and up to local government level. And based on this, my Director General, Dr. Halil Ahmed Shaba, made it mandatory that by early next year, we're going to train extension workers so that they could take this product to the level of users, end users. It's not just us doing it and then keeping the product or keeping the research work, but also they should understand how to interpret the map we are producing or the statistic we are producing so that they could help the farmers to understand what we are doing related to crop watch. That is another win-win for us. And I can say that we have learned a lot from crop watch. We are working with crop watch, and we're going to touch almost everybody's that is necessary when it comes to agriculture. And finally, we got two private sectors that also want to collaborate with us within Nigeria. One is in Lagos. They contacted UNCTAD and they were forwarded to me, and we're in the negotiating process. They are called G Round Table Satellite to Farm company. So we are working with them and see how they can use this crop watch data within Nigeria. Likewise, we are working with National Agricultural Insurance Corporation for us to map some of the farmland within the country so that they can use the data to help in agricultural claim or farmland claim or farmers claim regarding insurance. So thank you very much, Professor Mayo. A lot has been done, and he has been working with us day and night. We call him anytime and they pick, even though they're in China, we're in Nigeria. This is what I want to say from the perspective
Thanks
of.
a lot, Dr. Rakyas. You really gave us a very good flavor of how you have really developed and indigenized these systems in Nigeria, and you're looking for new users there. And I think we're going to make many new investments in Nigeria from the World Bank, and our team will definitely be in touch with you on how we can work very closely with you as we go forward, since you have many ingredients there of these data systems already invested in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I would now my colleague Boniface Akuku. Boniface was earlier the director of Information Communication Technology at Kenya Agriculture Livestock Research Organization, KALRO, and he has led a number of innovative programs on building big data platforms in Kenya. He's now working with the World Bank, taking the big data platforms to other countries in Africa. So Boniface, over to you. We are running short of time, so please finish in 5 minutes.
Okay. Thank you, Promise. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'll take 5 minutes. Yeah, I think I just want to say that I think the presenters have done a very good job, and I just want to confirm the value of crop monitoring and particularly leveraging on AI. So I'll just give a case, some of the examples and maybe some of the points that the participants here need to note. In Kenya, the World Bank has been very supportive and actually leveraging on the support from the World Bank. The first thing we did was to build a data infrastructure. And under the data infrastructure, we were able to build the big data platform that allowed us to ingest different data sets, soil data, weather climate data, crop data from research, farmer data, market data, and also other stakeholders data. And the second in data infrastructure that with the support of the World Bank were able to achieve was the farmer geotagging, georeference for the farms. And that has given us 6 million, more than 6 million farmers currently georeference. And again, that's a very good data infrastructure that we're leveraging on in this area. And I'll show you how that is now coming in to help in the crop monitoring and space. And I think the third infrastructure, the private sector engagement, basically to also get the data from the private sector, but also the tools and the digital solution that again exist in the private sector ecosystem. Now, after we were through the infrastructure, we move now to looking at how do we leverage on the available Earth observation data. And currently we work with cropping, and we actually done crop monitoring for 14 maize growing countries. And in this space, we are leveraging one on the existing and available Earth observation data, but also leveraging on AI and machine learning tools preliminary results shows that there's a decline in production in Kenya for the last 5 years. And the major cause is climate and weather. So again, this is very good for decision making so that we can know what are the major causes and what are the major causes of production in terms of yield. So again, what we've also learned is that use of different models is actually showing that different models can be used to be able to predict and do crop monitoring. For a long time, I only knew a Warforced, but I think right now we are seeing the application of different models from different contexts, and this is a good result because we can now confirm that we can replicate these models in other countries or in other contexts, and we can also scale these initiatives, these innovations into other contexts and other countries. I think the last thing I want to talk about is the challenges and how can AI come in and help. Obtaining ground data for validation is very expensive and actually very cumbersome. So how can we leverage on AI basically to still get valid data which can be used for not only training the models, but can also be used to validate the results that we're getting from crop monitoring. And basically, I think if we reach there, we can be able to improve the use of AI and the use of machine learning in this space of crop monitoring. So I think those are some of the things I wanted to say. And I want to say that I think as we have learned from the presenters, I think we should now think about how do we scale these models? How do we basically replicate them in other contexts? And how can we really address the issue of ground data, which is very expensive to get and also quite costly? I think I want to end it there because of time, and I return Thomas to you.
Thanks a lot, Boniface, for your perspective. I think it's a very important perspective. Both Rokia and Boniface really brought this live in terms of how it will be implemented on the ground and how we go about doing it. So what we have some minutes left, and what we have done is that there's very active conversation going on between presenters and participants in the chat. So I'm not going to repeat that. I'll pick two questions what are recurring from those, and then I'll pose, and every presenter gets to have 2 to 3 minutes to respond. So the first question is, how applicable are these approaches for field level forecasting of smallholder plots, and are they accurate, and do we think that we can use these tools to develop good forecasting for smallholder plots? And what's the confidence level that we have right now on that? The second is, are these, Rokia answered a little bit that, have these forecasts and bulletins been integrated with the overall value chain, that is agribusiness companies, financial service providers using this data? Because in USDA, the commodity trade and the agribusiness use the USDA forecast quite actively to really grow the agribusiness. So what's happening on finance and agribusiness in the value chain? Have you seen that happening there? So these are two questions basically which we are putting to all the presenters. And I'll now start with first with the we will start with let me see, we'll go in the same order probably. I go now to Moritz. Can you respond to these two questions if you can?
Yes, thanks, Parmesh. And yes, let me start with the second question, the integrated with the value chain. I think in my presentation, I already showed that the users, among the users of our system, first the European Commission, DG Agri, they use it, they fund also most of the system, or a big chunk of it, more than half of it. And I think that there it is very clearly integrated. And we also see from our four-yearly surveys, and also from what we see in the press, that the information that we provide is really taken up in the value chain by the big producer organizations and the traders and processors, etc. Not so much by individual farmers. The scale at which we work is simply too big to be useful or practically useful for by individual farmers. They do comment on it, they look at it, and they see that okay, I'm not the only one who is being affected by drought or too much rainfall, but for practical purposes, it's not that useful for them. And then I come to the second question: how applicable for smallholder plots? And yeah, I think our system, the way it is designed, is not applicable for smallholder plots, and I think there really artificial intelligence would be very helpful. On the other hand, I also see some limitations of the use of artificial intelligence for the scale at which we are working, and I think that could be another interesting debate, because one of the what you need to be able to apply artificial intelligence or machine learning is a lot of data, of comparable data. And what we see at EU level, we work with country level data. Even among different countries, it's not so easy to compare results from within the EU, results from France with Austria or Italy. The conditions are very different. And for each crop and country, you have only so many observations. So yeah, I see there also so far what we have, our research efforts so far on artificial intelligence at that level have been quite mixed, to make it sound even positively. When you go to subnational level, then I think it becomes much more valuable. But I think that could be an interesting discussion point. If not for this meeting, then maybe at another time.
Yes, I think you really brought in the paradox of how do we now bring in large data and how replicable it's if you bring data on that commodity from another country, how will it apply to that? What is the, so there are a lot of issues still there, but I think we have to solve this problem that we can't have a perfect data collection in every country now. That way, we are not using the advantage of the artificial intelligence and machine learning and the cloud data to really predict this in a better way. If we just go country by country, I think all of us will happily retire by that time and this would not be done. So I think there's a little bit of disruption required. And I'll go now to, Ritwik on the questions we asked now, that how predictable are smallholder plot yields using a combination of artificial intelligence and the data which you talked about. And the second is, are these being used by the players in the value chain? Over to you.
Thank you. So with respect to the second question, for smallholder ag, the methods that we have developed, typically we apply them at regional scale. We've applied them at field scale in Argentina, but the fields in Argentina are on average 100 hectares in size. So they're pretty big. My feeling is to apply these at smallholder ag, you need to have a hybrid approach, combine machine learning models with process-based models like Boforst. In terms of the value chain, so the work that I showed for Argentina, that's actually being used by individual farmers in Argentina. The work that we have done in Kazakhstan and Malawi has informed, mostly the policy place of the Ministry of Ag. And then I didn't show another project, but we have done a lot of work in Ukraine, looking at the impact of war on ag production. And that has had a lot of impact in terms of the planning of the ministry in Ukraine as well. And then with the AgMet graphics, they're used pretty extensively with a lot of our partners, both in agencies like FAO, but also folks at USDA and private sector players.
Much, Ritvik. And so we can hope to continue this discussion with you later on, because I think there is a lot of possibilities now of even what you are doing to be used on greater scale. So we need to institutionalize this a little bit more systematically on a platform, and we'll invite you for that strategic discussion at some stage. Actually, all the people here we want to involve in that. Now, let me go back to uh, or Meow and Meow. I think the 2 points again is that from your experience in these 5 countries, how much predictability we are bringing to small holders in that, because we know that Earth observation works up to a point of resolution, and because of AI, when plots are getting geotagged, even very small plots are getting geotagged, and that's the very interesting thing that you can do that. Are you able to do crop forecasting for smallholders? What's your experience, Meow, on that? And the second one, are you also using this for financial credit and insurance? Over to you, Meow.
Thank you. For the smallholder farmer, it is always challenging. And like even in southern China, we also have this kind of smallholder farming and hilly regions, small fields. For crop area, we've been developing special methods, not directly get every field's crop type, but using remote sensing to detect whether the fields are cultivated or fallow, and then in combination of ground samples, I mean sampling lines to get a statistical crop type proportion, so that every special unit, administrative units, we can have a very precise crop area estimation. But in terms of yield prediction for smallholder farmers, that's more challenging. According to what our model says, at most cases, we would only have yield prediction at like 250 or kilometer resolution. So smallholder farmers, we don't have capacity to get a field-based yield prediction, but hopefully with more and more high resolution, high temporal resolution satellite data become available, using artificial intelligence, it could be possible to work out this. And for the commercial sector, actually we've been working with some of the food trade companies in China. They collaborate with us. They request us to provide information services for them because they want to make decisions based on some of our crop production forecasts, and so that they can make some, I don't know, they are economists, but they use our data. Maybe they have their own model as inputs to make their decision when to buy the futures of the food of the crops. So I think this kind of up-to-date and near real-time crop type production forecast would be helpful for those commercial farmers and also commercial sectors.
Very much, Meow. I think I'll not try to summarize everything what's been discussed, but clearly there are issues that there's a lot of promise. And I think all the 3 initiatives are institutional. They are working on some scale, which I think is very important. And what I like about each of them is that they are coming with something more specific. Like I also understood from Moritz that you are now going from cereal crops to rangeland and lots of other forecasts, and including potato and other kinds of vegetables as well. So I think this is a new area to look at crop forecast, not just for cereals, or for other areas also. And I think that's the area where we have been getting a lot of requests, that because the world's area under horticulture is in vegetables is now higher than the area under food grains, and we have not developed the forecasting techniques for that yet. So this is a future area where everyone in this discipline will have to work a little bit different, because the nature of the crop is different, the coverage is different, and things are different. The second, I think, is very clear from what is that climate is a very big variable here, and we need prediction to come at a regular rate, because countries have to decide whether to import or export, and all the things get affected by the changes in climate, drought, and all that. And so I think what Maurice is talking about, using the weather station data, others are talking about, Ritwik also talked about these climate indicators, and I'm sure Mio also is using a lot of variables to come out with that variable there. So I think there is a lot of potential there. All the participants, I think 75% of the people stayed till the end. I consider that a high success rate and testimony to the kind of good presentations we had. I want to thank Moritz, Ritwik, Miao, Dr. Rakia, and Boniface for their excellent contributions. And you will get all the presentations and the recordings so that they're fully accessible. I have seen a lot of discussion happening between the participants. The purpose is to encourage that lateral kind of learning to happen. It's not driven by that. But watch this space. And if you are interested in making a contribution to this webinar series on this topic, please write to us. And we will definitely try to incorporate. This series is, whenever I post this on LinkedIn, almost 4,000 people see that post. So it means there is a huge interest in this whole topic. And even in terms of attendance, we can see we had 230 people at one point of time. And I think most of the people stayed till the end. So we are trying to create a kind of a global community of practice around this topic and see whether we can include this in all the investments we make from the World Bank side. We make significant investments every year, and we are increasingly including data platforms and these kinds of systems in each project. So we will come to each one of you separately also to see how we can collaborate better. Thank you very much. I also want to congratulate my own team, Alvin Hoff, who is the main organizer, and Sunil Madan and Berkat, who really did a great job in doing this. Thank you very much, and look forward to engaging with you as we go forward. Please watch this space. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Bye,
Rakia.
Mayo.
Bye.
Bye.